And we are recording. So this is our weekly live stream that we do. This week we're doing it on Thursday, just a little bit different because I was busy on Tuesday. We've got today with us, we got Bean, we got Beef, Don, Grizzly, MI, T Insights with us, and Wet Kimchi. Good to see you, Wet. Hadn't seen you in a while. By the way, Wet is the one that helped us out with some of the coding, the most recent coding, just so you know. Okay, what do we want to start with? I'm just going to go over some brief things really quick. It shouldn't take but a second, and then we can get into what you want to talk about, any questions like that. I do have some DMs, so I'm going to go over a couple of coins that were already requested. One thing I wanted to show you is something that Nansen said this morning about CPI. Let me find it here. Okay, here we go. Core CPI, 0.2% month over month, which is below consensus, 2.8% year over year. Basically, this is their head researcher as far as macro things go. So she's saying inflation is not an issue for the Fed, probably unlikely to become one if the U.S. gives every country 10% tariff across the board. So I guess she just doesn't put much weight on the number itself. It doesn't matter as much to her. But she's saying she thinks some sectors do not have strong pricing power because of weak demand. This includes airline fares and apparel prices, which fell. So, gasoline prices are falling. We've all seen that across the country if you live in the U.S. Maybe you've seen it, if you live in other countries as well. But the two-year yield's down. It seems like everything's in place for a continued move, and I know Tatiana definitely believes that, and I could definitely see that continue to happen as well. But we need these numbers to continue to hold lower like that, because long-term debt, we don't want to see it start to spike up, of course, too much anyway. And then we've got things like Bitcoin dominance. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I talked about this in a public video I did yesterday, but this was a resistance level that it actually got above, but this was a resistance level that I was watching on a macro scale, waiting for it to reject here, and it's possible that it is now. You're looking at a monthly chart here, so it looks bullish, of course, because of the green candles, but if we were to go down to like a daily, you would definitely see that it was coming down. Of course, it is starting to hit some support here, all of this in here. So, it could go sideways a little bit and then finally roll over one more time. So this would coincide. We're seeing a little bit of a bounce here. This would coincide with the small dip that we were expecting. So far, if we put a line here on Bitcoin, which Bitcoin doesn't matter as much. I mean, the main thing we want out of Bitcoin is to hold its gains. We'd love to see it continue to push up, not real strongly, but what we mainly want to see is Bitcoin dominance to come down, because that would allow our alts more room to start to move, and they have been so far. But if you were to take a volume profile here and just go local low to local high, now you can see some of the most important ranges for this dip. So first one would be the value area high here at the top of the volume profile, about 95K. And this will fluctuate a little bit, as the price action goes on. But the lowest I could see it coming back down, personally, is this point of control, which is about 84, 85K, something like that. So that makes a lot of sense, right? Because there was resistance here at one time, now it's support. There was resistance down here, and now it's support if it was to come down further. So what else do I wanted to say there? Yeah, so you got imbalances there, basically. You got a fair value gap where if you were to put it on like a weekly chart, these are huge green candles that usually get some kind of retrace for a retest, and then it's ready to move up some more. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, let me know. I think that's all I wanted to cover on that. As far as Nansen goes, we have bullish things that are happening in these queries that they have showing these moving averages that are crossing up. So this blue and purple line are starting to trend up, which we always want to see. Remember, this cycle, it's almost every single time been October that we've had a pump, and then a top was March. But there was also a pump, what is this, January 2023. So I'm looking at this purple line trending up is all I'm looking at. and this was October there, and that was October. So, you know, Rod, I wish Rod was here to be able to, you know, explain why he thinks this, but Rod tends to think because we're in the summertime that we could just trend sideways for a while and then have that pump in October. And I think he's basing part of that on this cycle being mostly October pumps, and I get that. But if we're gonna follow the usual, you know, 1,071 days from bottom to top, then we would top out in October or pretty close to there. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But, you know, all three of us, Tatiana, Rod, myself, you know, we all see a bullish market continuing. It just depends on how it's going to play out, you know, as the rest of the year goes. So if we start to get a pump this summer, I think it's much more likely that we'll see an October top, personally. But we'll keep tracking that for you and see what happens. All right, let me just check here on chat. Let's see, did anybody else join us yet? No, okay. KTA, what does Nansen look like? Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and look at KTA. I'm not sure I've seen that one before. Is it Kita? Yeah. Oh, it did, didn't it? Well. Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin dominance is really allowing some of these to run. I mean, I'll be a fan. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really a fan of the way Nansen changed this. I wish we could still see like how many wallets are in this chart right here, but there's still enough information we can, you know, take from this chart here. So the balance is dipping slightly. I mean, obviously back here in April 22nd, it started to spike into April 26th, and then it just kind of flattened out. But what you have to do now is go down into the numbers down here and just see what was going on at the time. So it looks like we had a really big player right there that had 359,000 tokens. Another one with about 80,000 there, and they were selling 7 days ago, or within the last 7 days. And you got another one that sold within the last 24 hours. But it doesn't look like there's been much buying lately. Maybe just this person right here. Let me just see what kind of trader they are. P&L. Yeah, I mean, they've done pretty good in a tough market over the last 90 days. So over the last 7 days, they bought, well, over the last 30 days, they sold 32K and they bought 104K. So I guess they're going to be holding that, you know, for the foreseeable future to see if it keeps going higher. I'm just going to see what their cost basis was here, or where they bought. Is it not going to show me? Oh, it hadn't loaded yet. There it is. Okay, so they bought, so here's the first place they sold at the very bottom, and then they were buying as it was going up. And that is a double top there, possibly. Do you hold this, or are you just looking to buy, possibly? Oh, wow, that was a good buy. Okay. Oh yeah, it kind of like updates the support resistance auto thing. Yeah, okay. Oh, he actually, okay, so this person bought back here, so they actually did, they might have broke even on these two, but anyway, they're holding a decent amount now. I mean, I still kind of like that play. You know, it had already broken out of the range here, and they were buying that breakout retest and hoping that it went higher. So, I mean, it seems like a pretty good trader. This person, RobbieJoe.eth or JEO.eth. So, you know, if you wanted to, I'm going to copy this address and I'm going to paste it in. You know, if you just wanted to follow this person's wallet, it seems like they're very interested in this token, and you could probably kind of keep an eye on what they're doing and see how it would work for you. Or just in general, engineering robo is going to help you a lot too. Oh, wow. Yeah, L1s are pretty popular. I mean, I don't know of too many on base either, so if you can find something that is like, there's not many of them, on a specific chain, sometimes that's a good thing. But we know what, that we always talk about, well, when things are bullish, everybody's a genius. So, that does play a part in it for sure. These things wouldn't be moving at all, or would just have a small move and then come right back down if, Bitcoin dominance was still going up like it was before. So, with this relief that we're getting, I think it makes sense to, play some of these new launches like this, either short term or long term, whichever way you want to do it. And when I talk about long term, by the way, I just mean like, 1 to 3 months. Some people might call that midterm. Okay, BOSON and AERO for Bean. Yeah, we can look at those. I don't know if I have, okay, let me just open it up. And I completely forgot while you were talking, Gwiz, I forgot to turn on the input. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it on so I don't forget. All right, yeah, I mean, we're at a double bottom support here. It actually got just a little bit below support on BOSON. MACD seems to be turning up. And I don't know if I have, here it is. So engineering robo is telling it, oh, that's the weekly. Let's look at daily. I'm sure it gave us a buy signal at some point. Yeah, there it is right there. So this one, what was this, 5 days ago, it gave us a buy signal. Sometimes we'll see something like this where you'll have that buy signal, and then we talk about, maybe it's gonna give a 50% retracement before it moves further. But sometimes we'll see these candles start to turn gray and then come back down here to support, and then it'll be ready to go. I'm trying to remember which one. There was one in particular that did that exact thing that I was looking at the other day, and I can't remember which one it was. Well, can't ever find it when you need it. Maybe SNSY was it. Anyway, you have like a buy signal, then it comes back down, touches support one more time, then it takes off. So we could see some kind of path. Yeah, this is the one, okay. So looking closely at this, see how we had a buy signal, and then the candlesticks, candle bodies turned gray, but it held support, and it stayed that way for a while, and then finally started giving green candlesticks again. So if you see something like that, don't try to front run engineering robo AI. Don't try to front run it. Just wait for the sell signal, and you may lose a little bit of money, if you're actually playing it short term. But if you're sitting on a support line that was once a sell signal, these red candles, and then it turned a buy signal, the gray just means to be cautious that it could turn red again, but it never happened. It just kept going. So in reality, even buying this candle right here or waiting a couple of days, you still had like a 2x move at a SNSY, even though you didn't buy the very bottom. Yeah, so that's what I think out of BOSON. It could, just base a little bit more and then be ready to go. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it did the exact same thing as SNSY. And, Tatiana, she talks sometimes about, well, maybe it needs to sweep the lows one more time too. So there's a couple different options there. But since it gave a buy signal, it tends to make me think that maybe it'll hold support this time if it was to dip again. AERO, yeah, we haven't looked at AERO in a while, have we? Okay, so we're rejecting off that bullish line currently. I've got the RSI up, so I'll just talk about that. But it is above the 50 RSI currently, which we know is bullish. It's putting in lower highs while we're getting higher lows here on the price action, or higher highs as well. So, there is a chance that it could come back down to support or just come down 50%, something like that. I wouldn't be so concerned about stuff like that though, because we've been waiting for a long time for Bitcoin to give us some relief on the alts, right? And we're finally seeing Ethereum, especially ETH BTC. I haven't looked at that in a while either, but ETH BTC is giving us some room to breathe as well. Kind of gave us is this the right one? Yeah. Kind of gave us a bounce off that support area. But these don't take off right away. You may see Ethereum BTC come back down here and trend sideways a little bit and then take off. Of course, that's a weekly chart, so it takes a while for those candle bodies to show up. Yeah, so we could see some kind of, this is the daily here on the left side, so could see some kind of 50% retracement and then it's ready to go again. But getting back to AERO, if we were to see that with ETH, where it came back down some, then you'd likely see this mimic it at least. And if we look, actually I'm kind of interested in this. I'm going to look at the dashboard. Remember with Engineering Robo, if you have it, you can go into the settings here and you can change, oh yeah, there it is right there. You can change any of these down here. So like if I wanted to do ETH USDT, and because what I'm looking for is the correlation. I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it. So what I'm looking for is AERO's correlation to ETH or AERO's correlation to Bitcoin. Oh, that's right. It won't show me. It'll just show me the correlation to Bitcoin. So AERO is almost 1-to-1 correlated. It's 91% correlated to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin was to dip, this would dip as well. So in my opinion, I would suspect that this is going to come down a little bit, just based off that information. So play around with the dashboard if you haven't messed with it before. It might give you more information that could help you. Okay, yeah, dominance did have a sell signal, it sure did. Okay, I think we're caught up on those. LCX was one that was requested. Let me bring that up. Don't know if I have that one. Yeah, I do. Okay. Hey, Leon, welcome. And Dilif. We got a couple more people joined here. All right. Let me get rid of the fibs here. And we're trying to hold the bullish line on LCX. I think this was, who requested this one? I'm just kind of going through the requests that I had. Oh, I'm looking at DGen chat. Oh, here it is. It was Luke. Yeah, he was about to go to sleep for night shift. All right. So LCX. Currently bullish. This is a little bit weaker of a signal. The AI social intelligence score from Engineering Robo. It's a 3 and it's green, but that is the start of it getting more bullish. Once it goes to a green 4 and then a green 5, then it gets more and more bullish. And of course, the social intelligence score it checks like Twitter and Reddit and things like that to see how many people are talking about this particular coin. I'm just curious what the weekly looks like here. Always go up to your higher time frame. It'll help you out just to kind of see what the overall structure looks like. I mean, this did test these 2 wicks here already, so this could already be the higher low right there. What I would be watching for, Luke, is when you watch this, is if it can hold this bullish line right here, which it may not be perfect. I mean, I would consider this more of a zone than a single line, but I think it's pretty close. Yeah, it looks pretty good there because this was resistance back over here and there's multiple support touches there as well. So if you were to get a dip back below here, it could come back down to this level. But, if you're getting some candle bodies that are holding there, then you'll be fine. But again, we had, the green candles there. I need to turn on this. So we had a buy signal right here, just like we were talking about with SNSY. It came back down, it did these gray candles, to kind of fake people out. And maybe it just keeps going sideways and then takes off again. That's the way I would look at it. Because this thing's been going sideways since November. I mean, this is plenty of time for it to, establish a base and be ready to move up again. Yeah, it was Luke, okay. MI22 chart for ATH looks like it's moving against the market. Let's see. Is that Aether Cloud? Oh yeah, you're right, it is moving hard. So sometimes these, and just let me know, if there's a chart that I haven't updated in a while, the support levels. Sometimes these will, blow through the support levels and go way down, and I'll have to reset them. And get rid of this cloud because it's kind of hard to see what's going on with it with that on. But clearly it's broken above the cloud. This is such a strong move. This is something to be aware of, by the way. What is this move? Probably a 2x minimum. Since the buy signal, well, that's about 56%. If you get over a 50% move within, a day or two, I don't know if this really qualifies, but this is a really strong move, vertical move. You have to expect that it's going to give you some kind of retrace. Now, if we were in a situation where all the altcoins were moving together and we were already super bullish, maybe Bitcoin's over its all-time high, you may get, a 2 or 3x in one day. But if you see something like that, you're going to have to always expect that you'll get some kind of retrace out of it. And I'm not telling you to sell. That's up to you if you want to do that short term. Most of us are going to want to hold our bags until the top of the market, whenever we see the top of the market coming in. But just know that if you see this thing, has a very vertical move, usually you're going to get some kind of 50% retracement or, retest of the breakout, something like that. So, don't be scared by something like that is basically what I'm saying. Because we've been waiting for this, move up for a long time. We don't want to waste, selling too soon is my point. But it's up to you. I mean, if you're looking for quick gains on a few of them that you hold, then, by all means, stick with that plan because everybody's situation is different. Maybe you are trying to get some, rent money or whatever, stick to your plan, whatever it is. Yeah, you're welcome. No problem. All right, I've got two more here that Epicure had asked me about a week ago and I forgot to cover it for him. So let's look at ICX. Oh, is this the right one? I may be bringing up the wrong one. Hang on. Oh, it's IXS. ICX is an old token. Yeah, so this was an interesting one to me just because it had such a huge move. This was back October, November. And, again, if we see something like this, you have to expect, especially if it's getting up into resistance areas there, where it had been before, you have to expect some kind of double top and then a reversal before it can move again. So with this one, if we were to just grab our fib and pull from this candle body up to this one, the reason why I had this bullish line, I mean, I'm a little bit under that, but if I was to move it up some, this golden pocket, I would expect it to hit that 5 cents mark. It just makes sense to me that it needs more of a correction. I mean, I don't know if things were to get really bullish, maybe this thing keeps going. I mean, it's always possible, but in most situations, you're going to see this thing reverse back to this line. But it's trying to hold this one. So, maybe it holds 9 cents. I really expect that 5 cents is needed on it before it's ready to move. But in the meantime, it does have a buy signal. So, if you were in this one and he may be, then what you'd want to watch for is if it was to reject, anywhere near this line again. And then if it comes back down here, then you have to consider that it could, fall one more time to that line. And Tatiana talks about this all the time, how, if you're looking at maybe a 2-day time frame or a little bit higher time frame, usually there's 3, like you got 1, 2, 3 lower lows before a reversal. Sometimes there's 4. And I guess you could even do it on a daily chart, but there's 1, 2, and there's not a third yet. So that would be something to watch as well. Okay. Did I cover that other one? Oh yeah, SWIFT is the other one. I think that's what he calls it. No. Hang on one second, I gotta go back and look at his... Oh, it's SNIFT. So he's got this other token that he's been following called SNIFT. And it's called Starry NIFT. Yeah, this one's way down at support. I really believe, and I told him this last time, I know I don't have any lines on this one, but I really believe that that's probably support right there. I mean, I've just seen this pattern so often. I mean, the way you could play this is just say, hey, you know, if it gets below the support level, I'm not interested anymore. But as long as it's above this, then I'm staying in. And then going back up, your first area that it could reject from is this that was support at one point. So that'd be about, you know, 0.13, just a little bit over 1 cent. So not a huge move, but you know, from here that would only be what, 60%. But you know, there are other areas up here that it could, yeah, something like that. I mean, it's got some room to move still. You get a 3x out of it up to this point. But you know, Tatiana's talked about this before as well, like with persistence, where if you get a big dip like this, I mean, this is an imbalance here. This is a fair value gap that hasn't been retested yet. So it works the same in reverse. Like if I was to take a fib right here, am I doing that right? I think I want to do it the other way, hang on. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So you can either invert the chart and do your fibs or just do the fib in reverse. And you know, I'm pulling it from here to here and looking for at least a 50% retracement. I think I have that wrong now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, that's right. So I would expect just a little bit under 2 cents or a little bit over 2 cents is what it would hit before a major resistance area, you know, where all this happened before. So hopefully that helps, Happy. I know I missed it for you last week. And he wasn't able to make it today either. Okay, yeah, we'll look at ABT, Don. Let's look at that right now. I think half of y'all are in ABT. I might be the only one not in it. All right. I don't know if I want, let me just go up to a higher time frame here. I just want to make sure that this support level at least makes sense. I'm just trying to connect as many of these wicks as I can get. I think that makes sense there, and then we'll look at the fib to go along with it. Oh, that must be why I had the line up there. Yeah, so the golden pocket is, it's about 30 cents, and I could see this still coming down to here. I don't know if it would come all the way down to the 786. I mean, it's always a possibility. I mean, it's even a possibility for it to come down to the 88. I've got the 88 fib on there, but yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, it could hold at this 30 cents mark, but you just have to see how it reacted. And the reason for that is, I mean, it's pretty clear, right, that, you know, there's a lot of wicks. If we go back down, what was I on the weekly? Or maybe I was on the daily. Anyway, you can see that a lot of wicks are hitting this where it was resistance. You know, you got one there, one there. I'm trying to get the exact wick, but it's not perfect. But if you go to a higher time frame and you actually pull it down to the candle body like that, that would kind of be between the 786 and the golden pocket there. But you know, if you pulled it right there, then this would make a lot of sense as well, because on a higher time frame, you know, coming down to these resistance areas, this should be a strong bounce here at what, 24 cents roughly. So just some things to think about. You know, if you're interested in learning how to draw these lines and everything, all you're looking for is you're just, you know, you got a line coming across and you've got an area where, you know, maybe it came up here, found support, and then double topped, and then lost support, and then came back down, double bottomed, and maybe just went sideways for a while and swept the lows. But once it got back up, it held that. So you're looking for areas that have a lot of confluence with support levels, resistance levels, and that's exactly what we have here. Although, to be fair, we don't really have a touch of that support just yet, or resistance, I guess you'd call it. So we resisted a bunch against this line. It was hitting from the underside there, but we don't really have much history yet, for it to hold that support yet. So that's why I really feel like, and you have a shooting star candle body there, little candlestick total. So if this was to close, what are we on the monthly? If this was to close the monthly looking like this, I mean, we got plenty of time. There's nothing to say that it's definitely going to do that. But if it did close like that, that would tell you that, this is more likely to come down here. And I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news. I mean, this is what these tokens have to do. They're all on their own timing for the most part. What did this pump? Was this mostly in February for this pump? January, February. So this one tended to pump a little bit later than the rest of them. And so it's going to correct or take longer to correct. So yeah, I really expect, look at this too. So you've got this, this rising wedge. I don't know. That's most people would call that a bear flag. There's not really a bearish divergence there, is there? Maybe a lower high there. But in this case, what you'd be looking for, and I mentioned I would do a trend line. Somebody was asking me about trend lines and DMs. In this case, you could just do a trend line here and say when you got a candle body that closed below this line, then that would tell you that it's at least coming back to here at 68 cents. But again, if you're a long-term holder, you really just have to decide what you are. There are instances where you could just buy twice as much of the token, like this one, for example. If you bought twice as much of the ABT that you wanted, and then you wanted to sell like half of it for a short-term gain, that's fine. And then just hold the other half. That's exactly what I did with QUBIC, is I bought twice as much as I wanted, and once it reached my sell level for short-term, I sold. But I held on to the rest of the other amount of tokens just in case it kept going. And sure, I would have loved to sell it all, and be able to take that profit. But I felt good about that because I stuck with my plan, and I felt secure because not only did I make profit, but I was also prepared if it did go higher. Hopefully that makes sense. Oh, what are you talking? Oh, you talking about I should buy ABT, Bean? I'm getting peer pressured to buy ABT. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember who it was asking me that about the trend lines, but there's kind of an explanation. Let me see who that was. It was Mystique. They just joined recently. So yeah, Mystique on that, while I'm talking about this, when it comes to trend lines, it can go both ways. It can be from the underside or the upper. So for example, right here, you're just trying to connect as many. Here I am on the 3-day. Try to start at the highest time frame you can, and then you want to connect as many of these candle bodies and wicks as you can. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because what you do is once you have it here on the higher time frame, then you can start stepping down to lower time frames and adjust it. And then once you get a breakout of that trend line, which it's kind of right in there, but once you get a full candle close above that trend line, especially if you already had it drawn as a support level, maybe you already had a line here, or maybe the line was somewhere up here. So when two things are, giving you a signal, number one, you got a breakout. Number two, price action was telling you that it was holding that support line. And then you got a retest of that support right there. So this was your buy signal. And you can use things like RSI as well. You got to move over the 50 RSI right there at the same time. So you could have taken a position there. And then on the flip side, as price comes up, you could have done a trend line somewhere in there. It never broke down. You could do a trend line right here. And then once the candle body close. You need the full candle body to close below. So it closed below, it retested that. You can see that right there. The wick came up and retested that. This was your sell signal. And then your RSI was also giving you clues as well. Lower highs were forming. So that is a bearish divergence there. Price is going up. Your indicator is losing momentum. So that's a true bearish divergence there. Okay, I think I'm caught up on, I've caught up on all my questions and DMs. So if anybody else has a question or wants to get into anything different, I do have the audio working. So if somebody wants to talk, it would actually be recorded on the stream, the recording that we're doing. Sounds like we're going to a $100 ABT. What did we talk about on that? Oh, well, yeah, I guess it could eventually. I forgot what is our target on this one? If we were to put, let me get rid of some of well, it doesn't matter on a higher time frame. The lines don't show up too much. But if we were to put what do I want to use, a weekly maybe? Yeah, if we were to take this fib and do like that. So Tatiana talks about using the 1369 and the 1936, which I really like. I'm glad she showed us that. I think this is a good range in here. I probably need to move that TP3 up a little bit. This is a good range because the 1618 is right in the middle of it, and everybody uses 1618. But if you want to talk about like value area low, point of control, value area high, so that's just a range that it could end up in when it pumps. These are the numbers you'd want to look for first. So $5, roughly $11, and then 33. But there is a $100 target at the 2272 there. So, as far as fibs are concerned, that is a thing. It's just, I don't know, it's going to be a timing thing, right? Where is it currently? 94 cents. That's a 100x move. I would feel much more comfortable saying, you'll at least see a 10x probably, and then, it's even likely you'll see like a 30x out of it or something at the TP3 line. But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. The first thing to watch for is to see, how these lower highs, because that is what's happening here. And as far as a trend line goes, you just do this right here, and you can see that it continues to reject that trend line. So you got your candle bodies are rejecting here, and then they're still rejecting there. So this pressure downwards, and I know, we have a lot of people that hold ABT. I'm not trying to upset you. Just understand that this is part of the, the things that have to happen before you finally get your target, by the end of the cycle. So the question is, do we hold? Does this come down and do a double bottom down here? Or do we come down one more time and touch that support line? You got a lot of support right here from this formation and a lot of this history back here as well. But it doesn't have to, and the reason why I say that, and I know I'm doing a 50-50 scenario here, but the market always puts you in a 50-50. It's just the way it is. You do have, like if I was to drag this down just a little bit, and then remove this, there is a resistance point where it touched here one time. It broke through it once, which does show some weakness, and that's why I'm thinking it could come down to here. But, any of this area, it's never black and white. It's never just one line, right? Any of this area could, it could just sweep into here one more time and then go up. But this is what you'd want to watch for. Since this was resistance at one point, this could come down and hold this line and then move back up. That would be a higher low. But just understand that there is a possibility of it dipping into this box as well. So you're saying there's a chance, yeah. All right, who do we have join here? Hey, some user, welcome. So, I'll timestamp all this later when I do the recording on YouTube. For the things that you missed, you can go back and find the things you want to watch. But feel free to ask any questions. This is an open forum. We're just talking about whatever you want to talk about. If you stepped on a scorpion this morning and you can't find where it's at and you're thinking about burning down your house, this is the helpline. Bulls only. Scorpion coin, yeah. Well, I didn't launch one, but yeah. Maybe it's a sign. I didn't get a 222 today yet to tell me I'm moving in the right direction. I'm trying to think of what else to show y'all. I mean, let's see, how long have we been doing this? 40 minutes, so we got some more time, plenty of time. Oh, that means the scorpion's coming for me. That's not good. That's the thing that worries me. It's like a assassin scorpion. It's going to get me while I'm sleeping. Oh yeah, Moonwell, we can look at that. Well, see, that's the thing. You know, I've been stung by a lot of different things, but I've never been stung by a scorpion. And you know how that is when you've never been stung by one, but you've heard how much it hurts. You don't, you just try everything. You're trying to make it to the end of your life without being stung. It's like a game. Moonwell, I think I have that one up here somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. I just want to see, I'm kind of enjoying the insect discussion here. Yeah, we'll look at Lake too, Quizzy. Okay, so Moonwell, you know, we were talking about the cloud, and we've been kind of discussing different things with Engineering Robo, and it's clear, I mean, it's very bullish. The cloud went red to green, that's great. You know, MACD could be turning down here. You do have a lower high on the histogram there. See how, you know, here's this was I guess you could call that a high or low, but this is a higher high here and then lower high. So the question is this thing about to, you know, cross down? And then sometimes you'll see something like this. You know, when it crosses up for the first time after a long time, sometimes it'll come back down and retest it. But the thing with this kind of move is you're only going to see a major dip out of anything only if the two lines cross below the midline there. So, you know, back here we were seeing, you know, the lows on the histogram continued to climb, although that one may be a little bit bigger than this one. But that was happening while the MACD was actually climbing up, you know, the two lines, and then it crossed above, and that's when you got your buy signal, and that's when you got your impulsive move. So I would suspect that it's going to do something like that if that's actually what's happening, and it may coincide with, you know, just a dip down into the base of the green cloud there, which that's a moving target, just so you know. You know, this could look different here in a couple of weeks. It could either be down here a little bit or up a little bit, but I would suspect some kind of, you know, retest, some kind of thing that makes people think it's going to do a head and shoulders, possibly, like this. And then it takes off. You know, so the market makers, they know how to manipulate these things, and, you know, they know people are watching for patterns like that. So people that wanted to short, you know, they'd be watching for that head and shoulders, and they'd probably front run it. But in reality, if you were looking for a head and shoulders, you would wait for it to break below, you know, that neckline right there. So you always have to wait for the buy signal or the sell signal, whatever it may be. So that's what I'd be watching for with Moonwell. Of course, we don't have to watch too closely, right? I mean, we just watch the Engineering Robo channel, or if you have Engineering Robo, you know, for those that don't know, we have a lot of these tokens in Engineering Robo AI alerts, and you can see buy and sell signals. So, you know, maybe you bought something like, I don't know, maybe you bought Hi-Fi back when it gave a buy signal, which could have been many days ago, and then you saw the sell signal 2 days, how many days ago was this? 4 days ago, and you decided to sell, and that's fine. I mean, if I brought Hi-Fi up, you know, if you want to follow Engineering Robo exactly, it's going to make you money. I can guarantee you that. Let's just see where the sell signal happened. So here was your buy signal. Yeah, so in this case, it actually, it fell back below the cloud, but it did save you money. If you would have bought this candle exactly when the buy signal happened and then sold when this sell signal happened, you would have lost, you know, 35% of your tokens. But in the future, when this thing really gets going, you'll easily make a lot of that back. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to limit this. You don't want to hold these things as they go down like that. And I'm looking at the 3-day chart. That is a sell signal there, but on the daily, it gave a buy and then a sell. So this is why the cloud can be important to you. If you would have bought right here, you could have gotten a signal even sooner than waiting for the sell signal. If you would have bought there, and then you have this candle that broke back below the cloud right there, you could have gotten out right there. So you would have mostly broken even in that case. But if you were waiting on the sell signal on Engineering Robo, then yeah, you would have lost a little bit. It just really depends on what you're doing. In Hi-Fi, I don't know if anybody's actually trading this one or not, but Hi-Fi, it just looks weak right now. It's not really one that I don't think that you'd want to invest in. Yeah, I mean, there's just not enough, there's really not enough information, but it could find a bottom somewhere here soon. I would wait for like a higher low or something, because you're way under the cloud here. I'm just giving you some ideas of what I would be looking for. It's not even anywhere near the cloud right now, and you need to see these candle bodies start to get back into the cloud, kind of like it was doing right there, to feel good about it. Okay. Let me just get through some of this here. I just want to catch up. Yeah, we'll look at Lake. Yeah, see, that didn't make me happy that scorpions feel worse than a wasp. I already thought a wasp hurt. Save your liver. Can we set buys and sell alerts in weekly time frame? I mean, we can, but the problem I have with weekly, and yeah, I mean, it's much more clear. And I think weekly works really well for things like Bitcoin that have a lot of history, because it gives you a much more solid signal that you can really trust. But we can go in and check weekly time frames ourselves in meetings like this, because the weekly, we know that even if we're 2 weeks late, usually we'll still be able to take action on that. But yeah, I mean, I agree that a higher time frame, and that's kind of why I look at 2-day, 3-day sometimes, but it just lags so much. Like if you were buying based on a higher time frame with Engineering Robo, sometimes you'd be buying the short-term top before a retracement. So yeah, I mean, you'll probably get faked out sometimes on some daily, but if you feel like the market has bottomed, like we were talking about accumulating a few weeks ago or many weeks ago, then we're really buying before a buy signal anyway in most cases, because we feel like the support's in on some of these. Okay, let me look at Lake and then I'll get to yours, Bean. Lake, here we go. Yeah, so we're starting here on the weekly, like Tatiana's talking about. It gives us a much clearer picture of what's going on. One thing to take into account is when on the cloud here, when you've got a big gap like this, usually, it's like a rubber band, right? Where it fell too quickly, it needs to rubber band back up. And so as we're coming back up and you're looking at the weekly, you'd be watching for when it touched this bottom of the cloud for the first time. And currently that's about 004. Wow, that's that 222 number right there, isn't it? 004222. So, I think we've probably found our bottom here because we did sweep the lows. Maybe we'll just come down a little bit more. Maybe it's already done with this correction and we're ready to test this bullish line or continue to test it. And we could see something like this still even. I mean, we have to be open-minded to these where maybe it just needs more time. And then, I mean, don't pay attention to the timing because this is on a higher time frame, but maybe it just needs more time to work itself out and work this bottom out. But this is a double bottom basically. And if we go to the daily chart and look more closely, we can see that we're tapering on that cloud. So this is a really good sign. Not only do we get our buy signal, we're tapering really tightly, And it's going to squeeze one way or the other, right? It's either going to give us a candle to the downside and have to come back down to support one more time, or shorts are going to get squeezed and it's going to pop over this bullish line here. But just know that this is a pretty strong support level that was lost, and it was kind of resistance at one point too. So once we get above that bullish line, I think it gives a lot more freedom for movement, to start grinding its way up. I'm just looking at some levels here. 006 could be, well, 0055 or so. Basically halfway between here and here could be a small resistance area. Yeah, something like that. And then of course this would be a pretty strong resistance area here too. Tatiana has this one at, I believe, if this is still correct, about 91 cents for end of cycle target anyway. Hopefully it can get that high, but here's some of the levels as it comes up that we'd be watching. I don't know if I ever put the fibs to this the way she does it. Yeah, my TP is a little bit lower than hers. Well, it's close anyway. 15 cents, 38 cents, something around $1 possibly is what we'd be looking at. Okay. Robo seems to be glitching with Lake. AI sell on bottoms. Let me see what the daily had. Yeah, I think that's just on the higher time frame because it lags so much. Like here's the 2-day here. Let's see what it shows. Yeah, so it gave us a sell signal right there, and we're just now starting to climb up again. No buy signal on the 2-day just yet. But see right there on the 2-day, this signal for the full candle body wouldn't have shown up until it was at 006 that day, if we were looking at something like the 2-day chart. So it's still a pretty good gain, because it kept going. But with a daily, if I was to mark this level right here, so we're talking about getting in at 0068 versus, well, the candle body was actually there, wasn't it, for the daily chart? Oh, that's right, because it's not going to show, 2 days. It's showing a group of 2 days, okay. Yeah, so in this case, the 2-day was actually the same as the daily, but usually the daily will give you an earlier signal. But yeah, if you go up to a weekly, I think this will probably turn into a buy signal fairly soon. I think it has to get over this bullish line right there. But yeah, it did the same thing here. It just lags, and it takes a long time for the buy signal to show up on a higher time frame like this. That's the only reason I don't do weekly on the signals. Okay, Bean, what two altcoins would I pick? Well, I mean, I just like OPUL in general, just because it hasn't really done much. It had let me go up to the weekly on it. It has swept the low right here, so I like it for a bottom play. But, it really needs to get back above the support line. Let me make sure that's right. I could even drag that up just a bit. Yeah, that's probably better. So it touched the cloud for the first time in a long time right there. Probably the safer play is wait for a candle to get above, 045, or wait for a candle body to get into the cloud, kind of like it did here, but this was a fake out. So OPUL is kind of like a value bottom play. CCD, I can't buy this one. I wish I could, but Tatiana really likes this one. Currently it is having a retrace, but anywhere in here is a good buy area based on where she thinks it could possibly go. And then of course, like SNSY, I mean, I hold a lot of these. Like I said, I can't buy CCD. It's just harder for me to buy it, but SNSY I hold. But I was buying SNSY, I don't really remember where I bought it now. Probably somewhere in here is where I was buying it. Might have even bought some over here at one point as it was coming down. I don't remember exactly. But see, that was a mistake too, right? We've talked before about how this cloud, and even if you don't have this, by the way, even if you don't have Engineering Robo, if you get yourself, it may be a simple moving average, let me see. I looked at it one at a time, but if we change this moving average to like, is it a 50? No, must be like a 21 or something. All this is a moving average for the most, yeah, there we go right there. Let me just delete this one. All right, so this cloud, notice how this line, you may not be able to see it. Okay, now you can see it. Notice how this line, this moving average line mimics the bottom of that cloud as it comes down. So really this cloud, the bottom line there is just, it's a moving average, that's all it is. And notice how as price comes down, you're getting a rejection each time. I mean, not every time, but it rejects it every once in a while. You're getting no candle bodies that are closing back into the cloud. So really you shouldn't, I mean, this, if I did buy in here, and I don't remember exactly, but if I did, that was a mistake. Really you should wait for a candle body to at least start closing back up into here. And like we talked about before, you did get your buy signal, it fell out briefly, and the safest play in this case, if you did buy here, was just to go ahead and sell, thinking that there could be one more bottom. But you would have to buy back in immediately because, well, not immediately, but pretty soon thereafter, you'd have to buy back in. Now, if you have Engineering Robo, like we were talking about before, and they gave you a buy signal, but then they turned gray, even though these fell out of the cloud, you could have just held because there was no sell signal on the daily chart. So it would have been correct to sell in this case, even though the candles came back out of the cloud temporarily. And this is the same thing we were talking about with the, let me get this right. I think it's like that. So I'm just connecting these candle bodies up here. And once you got a breakout of this trend line, which is exactly what happened there, that happened exactly when the buy signal took place. And you got a perfect retest of that, like if we were to drag this further. It didn't keep following this, it held that support and then it started moving up again. So in this case, if you were looking for a short-term sell, then you just start connecting these as well. Connect these candle bodies there and project it out. And then if this was to break down at some point, up here somewhere, then that would be your sell signal. As long as the RSI or something kind of, gave you a reason to do that. RSI would have to be under 50 or something, or getting close to it. Lower highs and then a breakdown, sell signal, lower high right there. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. I know I'm kind of going through that quickly. Oh, some KYC. What is that? Oh, yeah. Know your customer. Yeah, I just don't know if I'm not really willing to do that. It's like that doxing thing we were talking about earlier. I prefer not to dox myself if I don't have to. All right, we're about an hour in. I'm willing to go longer if y'all have some questions. Just let me know. Maybe some of the stuff wasn't clear that I was going through. And I can go through a few other ones while we're waiting on any other questions. Let's see, we went over AERO. Here's Tau, current view. Same thing we were just talking about earlier, resistance right there. I mean, this is another line that's important right here. You had, this showed some weakness right there actually. But, clear, I could even label this as support right here, this line. So a rejection, it lost. This was resistance at one point, it lost it. So now this is resistance, but it got back above it. It tried to hold support. It lost it, showed some weakness under two lines here, but now it's right back up. So price action is always going to be king. You don't have to have any indicators at all. I could turn off Engineering Robo as long as you knew how to use or how to draw your own support resistance levels. That's really all you need. I mean, you could throw some trend lines in there, like we were talking about, and that would help you to determine if the trend is continuing, same thing we were just talking about here where, let's see if I can get that. Okay, so what you want to do, just by the way, and I didn't really talk about this earlier, but you always want to connect these two peaks, the closest peak that you can get. You're not trying to really connect anything back in here. So, you know, connecting the closest one that you can find, candle bodies or the wicks, you know, you're just trying to connect as many as you can to where there's some confluence there. Fake out, came right back down. In this case, you might have bought here, but you could have sold there immediately. But here was your true breakout. And now, as price is coming up, you're just waiting to see if it's going to break down anywhere there, or if RSI or MACD is going to give you any indication. I know I just mentioned, you know, you don't have to use indicators, but, you know, if you wanted to throw them in there, there's a lower high on the histogram on MACD while price is coming up. Could be that that's a bearish divergence, but there's not enough information just yet. Yeah, anyway, those are just some things that you can play around with and see how it works for you. Heart, okay. Is that the humans AI? Yeah, it must be. I just want to see if I have a chart already for this one. I don't know if I do or not. Yeah, I do, okay. Oh, I haven't updated this one. I've had this one for so long. This is back when I was using Market Cipher. Let me just turn this off for a second. So in real time, I'm just going to do this really quickly, but in real time, I'm going to grab this support and I'm just trying to connect as many of these as I can. I mean, usually you want to find the most recent local bottom here, but you can see how it's more of a zone than just a single line because it's never going to be perfect. You're looking over here to see if you can find resistance areas as well. In a case like this, I'm going to step down to the weekly just because I don't have enough showing up there, but that's fairly close. Anyway, somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if you want to look at it this way, this is kind of your range right here. You know, you're ranging in between what is basically a huge discount versus a huge premium. You know, you don't want to be buying at the top. That's a premium. You're basically giving your money away to people that bought way down here. You know, you're buying the undervalued asset. You're selling the overvalued asset. That's what you're looking to do, like Mike Maloney talks about. But in this case, just get down here to a little bit lower time frame. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it wants to climb up. You're building higher lows there. There's a temporary support level kind of right in there, like a shorter term support level somewhere in here. Yeah, I don't know. It's something like that. But anyway, I'd be watching for, you know, right around 0.18 to see if it can hold there. And if it can't, you know, if it loses that, then it's going to come down here one more time. This is a weird pattern to me. I usually don't see these like this, so I can't say for certain what this one's going to do. It looks weird to me. This could be like a... this would be a...
Tatiana loves this chart.
Oh, does she? I mean, it could be a cup and handle, actually. Kind of like that. And then it's ready to take off again. I don't know. These are pretty tricky because just because it looks like a cup and handle doesn't mean it's actually going to be one. And maybe it already was one. I mean, this is an Adam and Eve pattern as well, kind of, where you have the spike down and then it does a little bowl. And here's a retest. So, I mean, it could be... Yeah, I mean, it could just hold the support line, this local support line here, and just be ready to go again. But to me, this one looks like more of a grindy type. I don't know, it got vertical there, though. I just want to see what Engineering Robo has for it. Yeah, I mean, it's strong right now. It's got a social intelligence score of 5. You got your buy signal. You got everything you want there, really. So something like that. Just kind of watch the trend line, see what happens with it. But, you know, if you're holding long term, then, you know, just watch for the sell signal with Engineering Robo. What you'll get a lot of times just in general, the engineering robo, see this down here, see all that. Near support areas, you're going to get a lot of choppiness, a lot of, buy, sell. So you'll get faked out sometimes. I guess here it didn't do it as much. But yeah, this looks like a really strong support level. And then this one is trying to gain some strength there as well. Yeah, she knows this pattern pretty well, apparently. She's calling it an explosive pattern. And I could see that. I mean, it is, more vertical here for sure. All right, let me see. Dog go to the moon. Sometimes this one's asked about. I think the support's probably closer to here. Yeah. So getting up into this bullish line here, could have a small rejection and then, grind it out and then move up. What else do we have? Super, I don't think people really ask about that one too often. I'm just quickly going through some of these so you can see them. Opulus, that's a weekly. Yeah, just waiting on Opulus to get back above support there is all we're doing. Just in general though, yeah, can't really use this trend line necessarily because it just went sideways after it broke above it. BOSON we talked about. Here's XPRT. I got to move the support line again, and then our bullish line will be right there. I'm not too worried about this. I'm disappointed that it kept going down, but that's fine. Sometimes they do. Hang on one second, I got to reload this. So, sometimes this happens, but there may be some information here on engineering robo, especially with the cloud, that we can figure out. What are we on the daily? Okay, yeah, so we got a couple fake outs. I remember we were buying here around 10 cents or something. Yeah, 10 or 11 cents. I think we saw that we had a move into the cloud and we got faked out there, but it happens. So now what we're looking for is, this looks like maybe a bottoming pattern, but I've seen them do this before one time and then come back up. So hopefully, we're starting to see that, but what we'd be watching for is candle bodies start to close back into the cloud, of course. QUBIC, getting a rejection at the bullish line currently, so probably some kind of retest is happening now, or just some sideways. Sometimes you don't need that retest. Sometimes you'll see these tokens where they will, they'll bump their head against resistance and just stay tightly to it. Maybe do some kind of, triangle pattern, symmetrical triangle, and then it breaks out to the upside and it's ready to go. More move to the upside. SNSY we talked, okay. Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of them. Let's just see if there's anything else. SEI, persistently going down yet. Bean got that dog in him. All right, let's look at SEI. I don't have a chart for that one, but we can quickly make one. This one looks like it's pretty close to the bottom to me, or has already bottomed. So that's your local on the monthly. And if we step down to the weekly, you could take either one of these. You could either keep that monthly, and you can label these too. You could say something like M support or monthly support, and then maybe you want to hold down CTRL and drag down a weekly. So this would be your weekly right here. So it's probably correct either way, because you got some wicks running into here on the history that were once resistance, but you've got candle bodies here, which are usually stronger. So I would just call this a zone. This is probably your support zone right in here. And then this looks like an inverted head and shoulders to me so far. But the question is it going to need to come down and do a double bottom, off of this local right here? But you do have your breakout, clearly. It even broke out and gave you a retest right there off of that trend line. And then you got your buy signal. So just like SNSY, could see some gray candles here, sideways just a little bit, higher low, and then take off. But it looks pretty good to me. And there is another support area down here. Could even be as high as that. But what's your drawdown risk? It's not much. You know, if you were buying somewhere in here, your drawdown was 35%. Yeah, so does this thing need to make a, you know, historic double bottom there? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's close anyway. It could come down one more time. That's just my hunch. Bye-bye, SEI. Looks like there are two shoulders on the daily. What, here and here? Kind of like a trend line, head and shoulders, you mean?
Nah, right before your buy is your head, and then right to the left is your shoulder, and then your I'm trying to poke. I'm pointing at my own screen. Your other shoulder is right before that kind of big candle. At least my thought. Even farther to the right on. Hold on, what day is that? On
you're talking about
May 8th.
inverted.
Yeah, the inverted head and shoulder.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Kind of
You
like
got right there.
This, and
Two,
this.
and bang.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. Yeah, it looks good. So yeah, there's definitely a neckline there somewhere, maybe as low as this, and it could already be above the neckline at this point, and maybe it's going to come down to retest it. So yeah, looking pretty good.
That's a T special.
I don't know, is it?
Yeah, she recommended that one.
Oh, good. She's all over it. Who else we got here? Tom, welcome. I think Tom might be the only one that joined recently. So yeah, Tom, if you have any questions, we're just kind of wrapping up here, but you know, I'm willing to stay a little bit longer if anybody has any further questions. I will timestamp everything so it's easy for you to find things that you might have missed. And then we will, I'll get that posted for you as soon as I can upload it and everything. Is OP optimism? I think it is. This is a very old chart. I drew this a long time ago, so the support is probably not right. Let me go up to a higher. I would say something like this. Yeah. It's fairly close. Yeah, looks pretty close. So support down here at 66 cents. You're trying to get above 90 cents basically. You know, there's kind of a zone in here that was once support that it lost, and now it's just trying to get back above there. So this is a weekly. I know it's showing sell signal, but if we go to the daily, you do have a buy signal. And I could drop this down to the double bottom there. I mean, that's fine. You know, because we're looking at a daily chart here. But that, yeah, that resistance right there looks pretty good to me. And then if we bring in the cloud, and we could even bring in things like MACD or whatever. I just randomly bring up indicators. I mean, like I said, you don't have to have indicators. You can do all this with just price action and support resistance and trend lines. It's the old school way of doing it. But this is sort of the same situation we were talking about. I can't remember what the other token was, but the cloud was starting to really squeeze together here. And usually when that happens, you get a powerful move one way or the other. And just based on previous price action that was moving down, you know, it's been down for a while, and now you have a buy signal. I would suspect that you're going to see a break to the upside once this squeezes enough. And you can imagine that shorts, you know, anybody that might be shorting this is worried that if it breaks above this bullish line, which I don't know if they have this bullish line on the chart or not. It's what I have though. But if it breaks above there, it's going to start hitting their stops. And just the same way that you have, let me just show a little illustration here. The same way that you have cascading, I mean, I don't know who leverage trades here, but you know, you have a bunch of stops down here where people have taken a long somewhere in this area and they're hoping that it goes up. But if price was to reverse and start coming down, so, you know, hits one stop here, hits another one, these are cascading liquidations. And just know that for leverage trading, when these stops start to be hit and people get liquidated, that actually turns into a sell order. So, you know, they were buying, but now it's just creating this further downwards pressure because all of these buy orders that were placed are now turning into sell orders. And the same thing happens on the way back up. So, you know, if we have shorts, you know, this is the resistance area that we were just talking about where price keeps pushing really hard and then all of a sudden it breaks above. Well, you got some shorts that were stacked here where the stop losses start to be hit, and now these turn into buy orders. So as soon as those get hit, now you've got buy orders and it pumps the price even more. So hopefully that makes sense. I know if you've never leverage traded, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's what you're looking for. This does look like a bull flag of some sort, and then maybe it just takes off from there. Another tea special, a sweet tea. Let's see, join late, but looking forward to watching the video. Yeah, you'll enjoy it, Tom. We went through a lot of different tokens and even talked about how to do, you know, support resistance lines, trend lines, stuff like that, because there were some questions on it, on some DMs that I had. Okay, well, that's about 1 hour 15. I don't want to make it too long and wear y'all out. Let's see, I just want to make sure nobody new joined. Yeah, so let's just wrap it up there, I think. And definitely appreciate everybody being here. You know, when you're here, it makes this much more fun for everybody. And, you know, the vibe in the group is just so great. You know, everybody's getting along real well and learning more about one another. And that's really what a community is about. And that's what we want to see. So let's just keep, you know, doing what we're doing. And hopefully we'll start to see, after this little retrace, we'll start to see a further push up and start to see even higher numbers on our alts. Okay, well, y'all have a good rest of your week. It's Thursday, so we probably won't do another video, but we'll do one next week. And maybe I'll put a poll out there to see if y'all want to do one on a Saturday, you know, if it's hard for y'all to make these on a weekday. And we'll talk about timing on that and stuff. Okay, y'all take care. Thank you.